Good morning. We're going to get started with our media availabilities here at Dover International Speedway in advance of Sunday's Apache Warrior 400 presented by Lucas Oil. Sunday's race will be the final race in the opening round of the playoffs. We will cut it down to 12 drivers for the next round after Sunday's race. Right now we are joined by Jamie McMurray, driver of the number 1 GearWrench Chevrolet. Jamie currently sits 11th on the playoffs leaderboard, has 9 points up on the cutoff line. Jamie, why don't you just talk to us a little bit about the intensity and what you need to do to stay in that transfer position?
Yeah, I feel somewhat good about the position that we're in, just because we ran pretty good here in the spring, and the cars that we're racing for that cutoff spot, I feel like we've run better than most of the year, and ran better than most of them here in the spring. So I think if we have a uneventful race without any issues, that we should be fine this weekend.
All right, we'll open up to questions for Jamie. If you have a question, please raise your hand. We'll get a wireless mic. We'll start up front with Claire.
Claire B. Lang, Sirius XM NASCAR Radio. In the transfer spot, to come into this racetrack, what about this racetrack makes it really difficult to be facing that and the cutoff at this particular track?
I don't think anything sticks out at Dover. The one thing when I think about coming here, even though it's a mile racetrack, it's really fast. It only takes 22 seconds, I think, to go around here. And this is one of those tracks that if you have to restart at the back, the leaders come really quick. It seems like you run like 15 or 20 laps, and all of a sudden the leaders are already there, starting to lap cars. So it's just one of those places that, man, if your car's good, it's a lot of fun, and if you get just a little bit off, it's maybe one of the toughest tracks that we go to try to stay in front of the leader, or to try to maintain your position. So it's really fast, and the surface of the track, it doesn't have bumps like we talk about at Charlotte or at Chicago or Pocono. It's just those little expansion joints, and they're just all the way around the racetrack. And when the air pressure builds up in the tires, it's a really hard track to get a hold of.
Kyle McFadden, TheRacingExperts.com. Jamie, considering Kyle Larson's consistent speed this year, do you ever ask yourself, where can we get some of that, or just like a sliver of that?
What do you say? Yeah, I'd love to have some of that. That would be awesome. The Kyle, those guys have just been on a roll. It seems like every type track that we've went to this year, they just have had a lot of speed, and they're having the kind of year that everything they change in their car seems to make it faster, and it just doesn't go that way every single weekend for everybody else. But the 42 and the 78 have had basically been the fastest two cars all year long, and certainly I wish that you could just put exactly the setup that they have in, and have that same speed. But it just it doesn't work that way. And it's the same for all the teams. When you look at I think the 18 has been basically the best car at Gibbs all year long. And if you go and you ask those other guys, why? It's just that things some years go better for some teams than others, and it's not as easy as just putting in the exact setup and getting the same result.
We'll go to Nate and then Holly.
Nate Ryan, NBC Sports. Jamie, obviously the pressure of a cutoff race is fairly unique, but I would think for yourself, you're somewhat accustomed to it. You've been through it here the last couple of years. You've been through it at Richmond numerous times, going back like more than a decade. Does that give you a little bit of an edge that you kind of know maybe a little bit more to expect because you've probably been through it more than anybody else?
Yeah, I don't. Man, I mean, it's. I mean, for the most part, if you this year or last year, every race was a cutoff race. I feel like you're waiting to see if when you go to the plate races, is there going to be a first-time winner? And then when we get closer to Richmond, every week you're kind of racing. This year it was Matt and Chase and Clint and Eric Jones there towards the end. I mean, every week is like that, and I don't really view today or this weekend differently than I have the last. I mean, any of the races this year. It's just, there's not a lot you can do about it. And I try really hard, every weekend you just go out and you do your best. And sometimes cautions fall your way, sometimes they don't. Last weekend, the car got into me on one of the last restarts, and I don't think it was anything intentional, but it kind of it barely knocked the quarter panel in on the tire, and I was concerned of that tire blowing out if we stayed on the track, and we lost, I don't know, 6 or 8 spots because of that, and had to pit. Things like that you can't control. I didn't do anything wrong, I didn't feel like. So I don't really view this weekend as more pressure. I don't even look at it as a cutoff race. I just view it as the next race, and go out and do the best you can.
Go to Holly.
Is this on? Yes.
Kind of.
You kind of answered what I was going to ask, which was it's the $1 million question we'll ask after each of these, but how do you anticipate the racing to be tomorrow or Sunday, because it is a cutoff race? Do you kind of go into it expecting people to be a little bit more antsy than normal, or how do you anticipate?
Well, it's going to be different. I've been in this position the last 2 years at this track, and it's going to be different this year because in the years past, I think it was 2 years ago with Dale Jr., I knew that all I had to do if Harvick won the race, I knew for the last 200 laps that all I had to do was outrun Dale Jr. If I finished in front of him, then I won or I advanced. If he finished in front of me, he advanced. It's different this year because people can get stage points throughout the race, and so it's not as easy as I don't know how many points I am ahead of the guys behind me, but it's not as easy as just knowing that you need to be X amount of positions in front or behind somebody, because if you finish second or third in a stage earlier in the race, that completely changes the points. And so you're going to be dependent on the team to kind of fill you in, like if you have to have another position, or if someone is pressuring you, that you can maybe give up that position and not get wrecked. It's going to be a little bit different this year just because the stage points are going to make it a little more confusing.
Any final questions for Jamie? We'll go to Lee.
Hey, SpencerMotorsport.com. A lot of drivers have talked about if you blink here, something can go crazy. Is this a track where your absolute full attention is needed just every second that you're on the racetrack?
I think it's more in qualifying trim and maybe the first 10 laps of a run, because the pace does slow down here, and it honestly doesn't have to slow down a lot to make it feel quite a bit slower. The difference, when we pull out this morning from running, I don't know the exact lap time, but a 22-second lap time to like a 21:50 is significant inside the car. It feels way faster, only running that little bit quicker. So once you get in the race and the pace starts slowing down, and actually on race day the pace slows down quite a bit anyway, it's not quite as bad, but certainly qualifying here, it's one of those places that I feel like overdriving the car is actually faster, and you have to really commit to the corners, and I don't know that without taking a lap around here in a car that you guys can appreciate how much lower the corners are than the straightaways. And when you go into turn 3 and turn 1, it literally feels like you kind of fall down in a hole, which is a horrific feeling. Even though you have all this banking to hold the car up, once you land, that feeling of kind of going down in the hole on the entry makes the back feel even lighter. We fight loose end every single weekend. That's everybody in this sport. You fight loose end, because if you don't, then the car doesn't turn good enough in the middle. And that's just magnified here. And then when you add those little bumps that we talk about, it's a challenging track, and it's certainly everyone's eyeballs are huge in qualifying trim here because it takes a big commitment.
Go back to Nate.
Jamie, knowing that, as you said, the stage points add another layer to this, have you developed the last 2 years, developed a system for how much you want the team to tell you where the other guys are running around you, and what the point situation is, and will it change anyway this year with the stage points dynamic?
Yeah, so they don't, even at Richmond, I didn't know that Matt was out of the race at Richmond. My spotter had come on and said that the 20 he made the comment like the 20 knocked his grill in or something, but Matt's car at Richmond actually had that, I don't know, like a one-off paint scheme on it, I think, and so it's not like he was in the DeWalt car where you recognize that car on the racetrack. And honestly, I'd kind of forgot about Matt, and I didn't really pay attention on the restarts as to where he was running at. And then when the caution came out with like 2 laps to go, they gave me, we had all those green flag runs there too, so it's kind of hard to get updated when you have such long green flag runs. But on that last restart, they were like, look, you're running 14th. If we have a first time winner, you need to finish at least 18th, and these are the cars you're racing. And then they said something about the 20 was out, and so I didn't really know what was going on. To me, the only time knowing that, though, that really makes a difference is if someone is pressuring you in the closing laps and you don't need that position, but you're, maybe if you've made this guy mad earlier in the race or earlier in the year, and you think that there could be, they might get into you and cause you not, to have a DNF, then maybe you let somebody go in a position like that. You don't, keep chopping them off on entry. But otherwise, you race as hard as every single lap you race as hard as you can. Every single restart you get everything you can. So there's really nothing you can do about it.
Go to Mark.
Hi, Jamie. Mark Schwartz with ESPN. On a different topic, I was wondering what your reaction was when you saw all the images this last weekend of NFL players and owners and how they behaved during the anthem and the flag. And do you think that the expectations for your sport are any different than any of the other professional sports in terms of how you have to act during the flag or the anthem?
Yeah, look, I came in here to talk about our weekends racing and not to discuss that, so I don't really have a comment.
All right, Jamie, well, thanks for joining us. Good luck on Sunday. We are going to continue with our media availabilities here at Dover International Speedway in advance of Sunday's Apache Warrior 400, presented by Lucas Oil. We are joined by 3 drivers who are dancing around the cutoff line here as we get ready to advance to the round of 12 in the playoffs. We're joined by Ricky Stenhouse Jr., driver of the number 17 Fastenal Ford, who is currently in the final playoff transfer spot for the next round. Austin Dillon, driver of the number 3 AAA Chevrolet, who is in 13th, tied in points with Stenhouse Jr., but is out right now based on the tiebreaker. And Ryan Newman, the number 31 Wastemaster Chevrolet, who is 1 point behind Stenhouse and Dillon in the standings. Gentlemen, I'm just going to go down the line here. We'll start with you, Ricky, and then go to Austin and Ryan. It's going to be quite the race within the race this Sunday. Can you give us an overview of your thoughts, the intensity behind that battle as we get ready to go into the next round?
Yeah, rewatching the race from earlier this year, I thought, all 3 of our cars were really fast. You can add the 1 and the 41 and 5 in there as well. I felt like we all had really fast cars, so it's going to be a battle. I think there is some strategies you can play to maybe get some stage points, but you don't want to give up too much track position here. So it'll be a fine line of what your crew chief wants to do, but it's going to be a heck of a battle for sure.
Austin?
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. It's going to be a race within the race, but you got to be smart throughout. Make sure you're there at the end and put yourself in good positions. And looking forward to the challenge. It's a little championship run here for all 3 of us this race. So one of us, I think, are obviously going to get the next round. So we got to make it happen.
And Ryan?
I think they said it perfectly.
All right, great. We'll open up to questions then. Raise your hand. We'll get a mic to you. We'll come up here to Claire in the front. Go to Claire, and then to Kelly, and then to Bob.
Claire B. Lang, Sirius XM NASCAR Radio. Good answer, Ryan. You think about this being the cutoff race and how much is at stake, but you guys all say you race your guts out, which you do every weekend. Anything different and more competitive here than would be anywhere else? Obviously the cutoff is important, but you guys always race hard.
Well, I think, you got to race the track as well here at Dover. It's tough. The car's always on edge to be fast here, and it's easy to make mistakes. So you got to watch other people around you. You got to be able to, get on and off pit road. So there's a lot of things that you got to pay attention to yourself, not just what, Austin and Ryan are doing. Heck, who knows, the 41 can go out and get stage points, and all of us miss stage points, and then before the end of the race, you're talking about him as well. So we just got to go out and do the best we can and, really kind of keep your head down until after that second stage, and then kind of see where things shake up and then go for it after that.
We'll go to Kelly and then Bob. Oh, sorry about that.
Yeah, I think, it starts today from practice to qualifying, and having a fast car definitely helps that. So makes the weekend a little easier, takes a little stress off of you going in after, you start up front and you can maybe get some quick stage points to start the race off. So it's key to unload fast, I think.
Ryan?
I couldn't agree with him more.
We'll go to Kelly, Bob, and then Holly.
Kelly Crandall, Racer.com. Ricky, Brian Patty had said earlier this week that kind of after Chicago and after New Hampshire, when he looked at the points, he kind of thought that you guys would be further behind just based on especially Chicago, but he then got excited because he realized with the playoff points and everything like that, you guys are still in it. Did you kind of notice the points, and what was your reaction to being, I mean, you are still in it, you're right there, but having those playoff points to kind of keep you in contention?
Yeah, after our poor performance at Chicago, I thought we were kind of out of it. And then when I got done, with issues some of the other cars had, we were right there within striking distance. And so, we didn't have a great Loudon, but we managed to gain some points there. And, that's what we got to keep doing, is just kind of keep our head down and fight to the end.
We'll go to Bob.
Bob Pockris, ESPN, for Austin and Ryan. Obviously, what Richard said last week about any potential anthem protests, I'm curious, in light of that, has there been any team meetings at all or any discussion among the team about what the proper protocol is for your team when the national anthem is played?
I think Ryan said it perfect.
I was just gonna say that I drove up. I was been doing some deer hunting, and I drove up.
You don't talk in
Yeah. I was gonna say that I was doing some deer hunting this week. I drove up to Maryland, and I passed a Greyhound bus, and I didn't see a single employee of RCRs or ECRs on it. So I think everything's fine.
We'll go to Holly.
Holly Kane, NASCAR.com. I just wondered if one of you, a couple of you, all of you could answer how much more difficult it is kind of knowing that where you need to be, because the way the points are in terms of there being stage points distributed, it's a little bit harder to know perhaps where exactly I need to finish, how many points I need to get while you're out there running on the racetrack. How does that kind of complicate your day? Or do you just kind of say, let's wait till the third stage and see where we are there?
For me, just go as hard as you can, and I mean the points will take care of themselves. They did for the first 28 races or whatever. So, you can think about that, but I don't think my sponsors necessarily want me to say, well, that was good enough. They want to stand in victory lane, and for this weekend, we got to thank Waste Masters for jumping on board and sponsoring our race car, and hopefully, at the end of the day, the trash will be taken out and we can recycle.
Any additional questions for our panel? We'll go to Nate and then Mark.
Nate Ryan, NBC Sports. For all three of you, Jamie McMurray was just in here, and he's been through a lot of cutoff races, and he said the only time he really wants to know what the point situation, where he wants his team to keep him informed of that is toward the end of a race, if he's down a position or racing a guy who he's had trouble with in the past. Is that how you guys are looking at it? Do you guys not really need updates on where you are in the standings during the course of this race until, say, the closing stage, the last 50 laps or whatever?
I mean, I think it's our job to kind of know that going into the race, really. I mean, you keep up with it in the back of your head, whether you're thinking about it or not, I feel like. And where you end up at the end is most likely where you're going to end up either way, I feel like. So as long as you don't make mistakes and change the outcome of where you should finish.
I think the only good example I can give of that is, what information Luke gave me at Phoenix a few years ago, and the move that I had to make that additional spot. I mean, would I have made that move not knowingly? Absolutely not. So, I think there's a time and a place for that information, and it can benefit you, but it also can ruin your day or somebody else's. I was aware of it on the last restart of where we needed to finish, and not knowing where Jeff was at that point, if he gained or lost a couple spots in that last run. So I knew what our guaranteed spot was, not until did I know where he was going to finish, or roughly where he was going to finish, where I needed to finish. So that it makes a difference, obviously, but it created a lot of excitement, I guess, and enthusiasm, at least on our part. But it's not where we wanted to finish. So that was my point of my previous answer, was we're there to win.
Mark Schwartz, ESPN, for Ryan and for Austin. Dale Jr. and NASCAR have also said that all Americans have the right to peaceful protests. Whether you agree with him or not, what's your thought about Richard Childress taking away any choice for his employees?
Sorry, I missed the first half. I was talking about racing Ricky. You repeat that first part of it?
Well, Dale Jr. and NASCAR, the organization itself, have said that everyone has the right to peaceful protests. However, Richard Childress said if you do protest, you'll be on a Greyhound bus. What do you think of the fact, whether you agree with him or not, that he's taken all the choice out for all of his employees?
Oh, I have no clue, but for me, I stand for the national anthem for those who give us the right to go out and race every weekend. And for me personally, when I go out there, I think it's an honor to stand during the national anthem and have my hand over the heart and stare at the flag. And I enjoy that part of my weekend so I can give a little bit back to those who have given their lives to allow me to go race. So that's where I stand personally. Can't talk for anyone else.
I have to say that the word protest would be kind of conflicting in my mind. I don't think that there is anything to protest when it comes to why I personally stand for the American flag. I think it's all about liberty and justice for all, and that's the freedoms that we have, and we should all be thankful for that. And if you have the ability to stand, that's the way I was taught to treat that moment, was to stand. If everybody else is taught differently, then it's news to me.
Do you think anyone this weekend from any of the teams would protest during the anthem or during the flag? Do you expect anything like that?
We're not here for that. We're here to race. I mean, we can talk about this stuff all day long, but we're here to race. We're here to try to win a championship for ourselves and for our sponsors and for our fans. And anything else is just getting in the way for us.
I think you should tune in and watch the race. It's going to be a great race Sunday. Find out right then.
Any final questions for our panel? All right, gentlemen, thanks for joining us this morning. Good luck on
Thank
Sunday. All right, we're going to continue with our media availabilities here at Dover International Speedway in advance of Sunday's Apache Warrior 400, presented by Lucas Oil. We are joined by Danica Patrick, driver of the number 10 Ford Warriors in pink car. She is running a special paint scheme this weekend and next weekend as Sunday kicks off Breast Cancer Awareness Month. This marks 23 years for Ford with the Ford Warriors in Pink program. They've donated over $133 million to the cause during that time. Danica, why don't you just talk a little bit about the program and what it means to be running this paint scheme here for the next 2 weekends as we start off this month?
Yeah, I have been a part of Breast Cancer Awareness Month for many years, and it's an honor. And I've also been able to meet a lot of survivors. And just a couple weeks ago, or just last week, yeah, it was last week. Time flies. I was in Chicago driving survivors around, and I got a chance to look at their bios before I went, and yeah, it makes you feel pretty small again. So these women have struggled through a lot, and some of them have gone through it more than once. So it was a good day. They were all very excited. There was some people were screaming. Actually, one lady, when I stopped, I said, "Were you screaming every time I went into the corner?" And she said, "Yes. Did you hear me?" Yes. So it was a great day. But proud to represent this program and be a part of its really, really long history and incredible donations.
Great. We will open it up to questions for Danica. We'll start here with Lee.
Lee Spencer, Motorsport.com. Tony Stewart came out. He was really supportive of what you have done and what you meant to the company. What has he meant to your career in particular?
Well, it's pretty much as long as I've been in NASCAR, he's been a part of it. Even as early as my part-time NASCAR with Junior Motorsports, and then in the transition to full-time. The plans were in the works to go to his team for basically almost the entire time. So he's been a part of it all. So yeah, pretty much my entire existence in NASCAR has had to do with him, indirectly or directly. So I'm grateful.
Has he been an influence as far as helping you to get up to speed in NASCAR from that standpoint as well?
He's an encourager, but I don't think he would claim that he's a driving coach or setting up the cars or anything like that. So no, I think that there have been others that have given me more help as far as driving goes. And not everyone can teach, and not everyone can, so everybody has their abilities. But I can't be taught anything in NASCAR if I'm not here, and he's the reason. A very big reason why I'm here.
We'll go to Bob.
Bob Hawkers, ESPN. With what's going on in other sports in relation to the
What's
national
going on?
anthem, have you guys had any meetings at Stewart Haas, or would you anticipate any meetings before Sunday on what to do during the anthem?
No, as you can imagine, I probably haven't been at many meetings at Stewart Haas lately. So no. I mean, the extent of it is talking points. But other than that, I think as far as individuals go, we aren't obligated to say anything in particular.
For you being a woman in the sport, I know you don't want this to be your last season, but if it is, do you look back at, as you look back at the legacy, a lot of women up and coming in short track racing in recent years are crediting a lot of their success to you, such as Julia Landauer and Macy Causey and so many others. What are your thoughts on that and what you leave behind in this sport if this is your last season?
Well, that's an honor. But at the end of the day, just as I have had to do and as anyone that comes after me will have to do, they'll have to prove themselves. And they will have to bring a lot to the table. And they will have to work really hard. So, nothing that anyone after me brings will be just simple and easy. It's going to be work, just as it's work for every guy too. You have to also be lucky. You have to catch the right moment with the right ride, the right sponsor. But when the opportunity presents itself, you need to be ready.
Any additional questions for Danica? We'll go here to Claire.
Claire B. Lang, Sirius XM NASCAR Radio. I apologize if this has already been asked because I was doing a different interview, but I wonder if you feel that looking at you when you started and now you're talking about other people coming in and facing the same thing, that you've been very tough, that there's talented young women drivers that will come in, but it takes a certain toughness that, I don't know, that's part of it no matter what what you're able to achieve, right? Have you had to be really tough to make it this far, even to the extent of where you're at?
Yeah, as far as in motorsports goes, there's only one other division I haven't done, so top level. So, it doesn't really go any further. And I've been extremely fortunate to be able to have that experience in IndyCar and in NASCAR. But yeah, I think that when I lived in England, I was probably hardened up a lot. I came home and I remember my parents saying that I had gotten a lot harder, and that was just because I was a very open, honest, naive, I guess is a word you could use to describe it. When you're young and you have best intentions, you assume the best of everyone. That's not necessarily the truth. So yeah, you have to harden up, and I've also been given lessons along the way about certain ways to speak to people and to portray confidence and things like that. So, things that are beneficial for the long run, but, they definitely are. I think that we all have insecurities, and, there's not everything is just black and white, and it is or isn't. So, while you want to kind of display truth and saying, I think, or, I've been, taught to be very, very certain. And, that is hard, even as decisive as a person I am with everything I do. You do have to put forth that confidence and through your words and then your actions.
We'll go to Mark and then to Lee.
Danica, Mark Schwartz, ESPN. Last week we heard Richard Childress.
You can stand up so I can see you. Thank you.
There you go. This week we heard Richard Childress and Richard Petty say what they would do to any employee who protested the anthem. To what extent do you think NASCAR drivers may be treated differently than, say, NFL or NBA players if they took a knee during the anthem, and why would that be?
Well, I don't know. Have every other sport and every other business been, surveyed as to what they would do? I think that's, if we're only using two sports as an example, then it's just one or the other. So, but, how you run your business is how you run your business. And either you sign a contract that says you're an independent contractor, or you sign one that says you're an employee. And maybe it comes down to that, or maybe it just comes down to, doing your job. So, yeah, I mean, if you have to figure out what's more important to you. If you think something should be done differently and you might sacrifice your job, then that's your choice. Otherwise, it's your choice the other way, too. So, but in general, there's plenty of platforms to speak your mind. And so if it comes in interference with being able to put food on the table, then, or being able to do something that you love, then I think that you should probably go by the rules. There are a lot of rules in this world. I mean, I don't really drive the speed limit, but I'm supposed to, and they can give me tickets. And now, don't you think that I was thinking I should pull out my FIA racing license next time I get pulled over. I don't know how that'll go over, but, there are rules for everybody. And even though maybe I have a bigger comfort zone or more ability than that cop giving me the ticket, it's still a rule.
We'll go to Lee and then to Bob.
Lee Spencer, Motorsport.com. So far, what is your proudest moment in NASCAR of what you've been able to accomplish so far? And do you think you've had the best equipment to do what you've needed to do?
I don't know. That's I mean, the one that'll stand out will be qualifying in the Poole for the Daytona 500, of course. As I think that the the media results of that are something like winning the fourth biggest race of the year, even though it's just for qualifying. So that one will be the most, the biggest one that will stand out. But there have been lots of little races along the way that I've felt like have been much more difficult and much more representative of the hard work I put into the sport and into myself. But those don't stand out because they weren't wins. They weren't even top fives. But top tens and things like that. Some runs that I've had have meant more to me. But I definitely think that, pulling back a little further than just individual events is just the inspiration that you are told that you bring to people, or especially to kids. That's a role that you can't buy your way into. You have to earn that. So you can't just stumble onto that, I don't think, especially having been around for a long time now. People probably know my personality, so that's probably the most meaningful. And then what was the second part of your question?
Do you think you've had top-of-the-line equipment to really stage, put your best performance on the best stage?
Well, do I think that I've had the best car on track with the best engine, the best? Probably not. But have I had good teams? Absolutely. Have I had good equipment? Absolutely. I think that what the challenge is those last little details, and having a group of people around you that really believe that you can do it and are willing to go beyond the call of duty for the job and, go the extra mile. And so my very first engineer in IndyCar, this is a reference that comes to mind. He called it the 100-hand theory, where if you stick one hand out the window, it doesn't really make a difference, but 100 does. So, all those small little details that stack up to, making something special that you put on the track. Now, I think that maybe that's something that hasn't always been there, but I do think I've always had good equipment for sure.
Jay Fry said he'd welcome you back to IndyCar. Do you have any interest in going back there?
No, I'm not planning on anything going back to IndyCar. But never say never, as I've said for many, many years, because I'm getting so old that I know that things can change and my life changes in ways that I would never expect every couple of years. So, you just can't cross anything off the list completely.
We'll wrap up with Bob.
Bob Pockris, ESPN. In the last 2 weeks since your announcement that you wouldn't be back at Stewart-Haas, have you had many discussions about next year, and do you feel any better or worse about your chances of racing next year?
I've had some, but not a ton. I mean, as I've said for a good while now, I let the business people in my in my business handle that and have those conversations and figure out what options are out there, and I continue to let them do that.
Danica, thanks for joining us today.
Okay.
Good luck on Sunday.
Thank you.
We're going to continue with our media availabilities here at Dover International Speedway. We're going to change pace and head to the NASCAR Xfinity Series in advance of tomorrow's Use Your Melon Drive Sober 200. We're joined by a pair of drivers from Chip Ganassi Racing. We have Tyler Reddick, driver of the number 42 BBR Dustin Lynch Chevrolet, and Brennan Poole, driver of the number 48 DC Solar Chevrolet. Tyler, we'll start with you. You just captured your first NASCAR Xfinity Series win in Kentucky last weekend. You do have a win here in the Truck Series at Dover as well, so I'm sure you're pretty excited coming into here to Dover. Why don't you just talk about what you're looking forward to tomorrow?
Well, just looking forward to, obviously, no rain is nice. The weather's a little on the chilly side, but I'm sure we'll still have great racing nonetheless. With the less downforce, these cars will fall off a little bit over the course of a long run. So we're just going to really focus on getting our car pretty close. It was really good the last time. It won in the spring here with Kyle. So I know we're going to have a good car like we did last week. We've just got to do our part, or I've got to do my part, I should say, and get up to speed pretty quickly.
And then, Brennan, you scored a career best NASCAR Xfinity Series finish last week in Kentucky, and you were the highest finishing playoff driver. Is this the kind of momentum you need to help propel you into the next round of the playoffs?
Yeah, I think so. I've been pretty fast over the past couple weeks, and we finally were able to put a whole race together at Kentucky, which was nice, and to get our career best finish moving forward in these playoffs, I think it's pretty big. So I'm just really happy where our team's at. We've been pretty strong over the last couple of months. We've had some really fast race cars, and I think it's all that hard work and everything's finally showing up and paying off. So I'm excited about this weekend. I feel like we're going to have a fast car and have another great run, and then of course going to Charlotte after this is probably one of my best mile and a half. So this round is certainly an exciting round for us and started off strong.
All right, we'll open up to questions for Tyler and Brennan. We'll start here with Lee and then go to Kyle.
Lee Spencer, Motorsport.com. Hey, winner.
How's it going?
You and Ryan Preece have taken unconventional routes to finally, getting up to the bigger leagues in NASCAR. He took a part-time gig with Joe Gibbs Racing, went out and won. You took a part-time gig with Ganassi Racing and won. Has it been worth it to kind of, do something a little different, maybe not do the traditional route of just, grinding it out with just any ride to get to the next level?
Well, even though, like you said, me and Ryan both being on part-time schedules, it was my 15th start, and it was only Ryan's. I think, he won pretty early on. He only had like 3 or 4 shots in that car. So for him to do what he's done in that car is really, really cool in that limited amount of starts. But thankfully, even though I did have a part-time schedule, we were able to test twice. We were able to learn a lot of things in the beginning of the year that set us up to get better throughout the year. So even though it was a part-time schedule, it still kind of felt like a truck schedule, even though we run 16 races. But even though it wasn't a lot of seat time, a lot of laps, more laps in the truck series. So to me, it really felt like a truck season, but with less races and more laps.
But it gave you a great opportunity to audition for taking the next step, which in your part, it was JRM.
Yeah, that was nice. Obviously, we were able to win after that announcement came out, but I told my guys before the race that night at Kentucky that it was my first race back since the announcement, and I just wanted to remind them, hey, next year's next year, and this year, it's 2017, and the goal is to win the Owners' Championship on the owner's side, and hopefully Brennan can do the same on the driver's side for Chip Ganassi, and winning a race at Kentucky last week and him running second is a step in the right direction and making both those things happen.
We'll go to Kyle.
Brennan, racingexperts.com. Tyler, my question kind of spins off of Lee's, but 5 years ago, you were racing in the Lucas Oil Dirt Late Model Series as a 16-year-old, and then here you are now as an Xfinity Series winner and with a full-time ride for Junior Motorsports. I just wanted to pick your brain on what this journey has been like for you, and how have you adjusted as a racer as you continue to climb the ladder?
It's been a lot of fun. Not many people can race their whole life, grow up racing dirt, and then get to run asphalt and get to do a lot of these things. And there's just a lot of great support from my family and the people who have sponsored us over the years. But to finally win an Xfinity race was really cool. And I felt like we've had the speed to win earlier, but as a rookie, you make rookie mistakes, and that's something that we had to just do. But the journey itself has been a lot of fun. I obviously I wouldn't want to do anything else, so this has been really cool.
Brennan, my question's for you. Several years ago, you won a championship in the UARA Late Model Stock Car Series. What can you take away from the late model stocks and your success there and that championship on a variety of different tracks, albeit short tracks, and apply into these playoffs and the remainder races?
Well, I think it's just consistency, not making mistakes, and having good, solid runs. Obviously, over here it's a little bit different. The competition's a lot harder, but you just have to collect stage points. I think last week, I finished second and missed out stage points in the second round, and ended up losing a spot in the points. So it's just really, really tight. You just can't have any mistakes. You got to nail all your fundamentals and put a fast race car out there on the track. And if you can have no mistakes and collect stage points in both the stages and end up with a good finish, I think you'll be in good shape to make it through all the rounds and be there at Homestead.
How much did that prepare you heading into ARCA and now into NASCAR?
Yeah, I think the late model stock cars are a lot closer, as far as the experience you can get for moving forward. They're a perimeter car, so it's much closer to what you're going to run as you're moving forward than it is, a super straight frame rail. So, for me, I'm really fortunate that I feel like I was able to go down the right path that helped me be successful at each level. And I've also been very blessed to have the right people come along at the right time to help me get to the next level. So, if I were to do it again, I wouldn't have changed anything. I would have still ran late model stocks and moved through ARCA and into the Xfinity Series.
Go to Jerry.
Jerry Jordan, KickingTheTires.net, PRN. Brennan, both our communities in Texas were impacted by Harvey. Can you talk about your efforts? I know you were doing some fundraisers and things of that nature. Have you been back since then, and what is the impact for your family in that area?
Yeah, so my hometown was completely demolished in the hurricanes, and so it was just tough. I got cousins and family that live there, my best friends, everybody, in that area was struggling, and so during that week after the hurricane, we had a food and fundraiser at the race shop. We had a lot of people come into the shop and donate food and funds, which was really awesome. Pretty much everybody on our race team on the Cup side and the Xfinity side donated. Canned goods or funds to that deal, and we actually ended up raising over 6,000 meals, for the city of Houston. So it was really cool to be able to see everybody around the world and even in the racing community how much they care to reach out and try to help out a community, especially one that's so close to my heart, and so. That was really special. I haven't been able to get back there. I may go down there Texas week and these playoffs here coming up. So. And see everybody and go hang out and probably get some Mexican food when I'm down there. But, so I haven't had a chance to go down there, but we did ship all the food out and everything. It was pretty humbling experience to see everybody on a race team step up and people in the community donate to try to make a difference. It was awesome.
And also, obviously, the problem continues. I think it might get overlooked that things have been provided, but now it's rebuilding and tearing out homes and that devastation. Will there be other events where you continue to participate in the area?
Yeah, I think for sure. That week when I go out to Texas, I'm looking at going down there and helping out and getting involved in some of the things going on there. There's $180 billion or something in damage done to the city. I can't remember the house count, but there's hundreds of thousands of homes that have to be put down to absolutely nothing and start over. So. It's just a tough situation, but Houston's a tough town, and so many great people around the country stepped up to help, bring funds to that deal to help the rebuild process start. So, it's sad, but also really awesome to see all the hard work and everything that was put into, raise funds and efforts for that deal to help everybody out. So it was cool. So I'm trying to get down there Texas week and see what I can do.
We'll go to Kelly.
KellyCrandallRacer.com, one for Brennan and one for Tyler. Tyler, your deal with JR Motorsports was announced before your win last week, but when that came out, and you had already signed the deal, but did you look at maybe still having to kind of like validate their belief in you by over these next couple races? You know, or does a win help you in any way, or were you fine with kind of? I mean, they signed you anyway. They signed you before you won, type thing.
You always want to win as a racer, you know. But after making the announcement, to win with Ganassi was nice. I really, really wanted to win with Ganassi before the year was up. I wanted to win multiple times because they're a successful team. They put good cars on the racetrack, and you know they're a good group of guys. I want to get wins for them and all the guys that build the cars back at the shop. So after I figured out I wasn't going to be coming, I guess you could say it was, you know, a little extra fuel on the fire of already very hot burning fire to win races. But it was really cool to get it done. At there, Kentucky, we had a really good car, learned a lot of mistakes from my first race there earlier in the year, and applied it to the second race, and it all kind of came together.
Brennan, you had talked about stage points and trying to rack those up to have something to fall back on. What about playoff points? Are you racing any differently to try to rack up some playoff points? Because you don't have a whole lot of those to fall back on either. And even though you finished second last week, you mentioned that it really didn't do a whole lot to help you in the standings.
Yeah, I think absolutely. I mean, really over the past couple months, our team has really been trying to, win stages. And, we've been close. I don't even know how many times I finished second or third in a stage, but it's quite a bit. But, we still try to attack it the same that we have over the past couple months. Try to win some stages, get some of those bonus points that'll carry with us to the start of the next round. We're pretty comfortable where we're at as far as making the next round on the points. As long as we don't have any parts failures or anything stupid happen. So I think you just have to be smart, be aware of your surroundings and the situation you're in. If you can get there and win a stage, obviously you kind of might take a small risk or something to make that happen. But for the most part, try to be smart, rack the stage points up, get what you can get, and go ahead and get on to the next round.
All right, gentlemen, thanks for joining us this morning. Good luck tomorrow afternoon.
Thanks.
Thank you.